spicy. Jimmy Garoppolo on there could be a benefit, but have they kind of burned that bridge?
We'll say this. Gardner Minshew is the best backup in the NFL.
I love Gardner. Welcome to 30 Minutes of Football with Legit Football, the only show that brings you all the NFL analysis you need in just 30 minutes a day. My name is Brian McFadden. It is Monday, October 10th. Week 5 is almost completely in the rear view. We've got one more Monday Night Football game tonight. And since it's Monday, that means we are recapping all of the action from Sunday. I've got Jimmy Ray from NFL Stats on Twitter at NFL_stats joining me as he does now every Monday. We are live on YouTube and Twitter. Jimmy, how you feeling today?
I'm doing great, man. It was another great week. It's already going to be week 6 soon. I won't talk like that yet, but we'll come.
So fast. It goes so fast. We spend so much time anticipating the NFL season and all of the narratives and the stories, and we're going to talk about narratives today. And then it happens, and it's like, wait a second, over 25% of the NFL season is gone. That's just, it's way too fast, but I love it. I can't get enough of it. I mentioned to you briefly before we started recording that we're going to talk about narratives. I think after 5 games, as I mentioned, over 25% of these teams' games have now been played. So when I was looking at these games, I realized that there were some narratives that I was still carrying with me from the preseason that I'm like, no, I have to change that narrative for better or for worse. So we're going to try to approach today's show from that angle as we look at these Sunday games. We don't have to have anything abstract or amazing. Just like if there's a narrative that you've been holding on to that you realize after 5 weeks, like, hey, no, this is not going to be that way. 2022 season is telling us the way things are going to be. Does that sound like a great way to approach today's show?
That sounds good. I like it. I always try to put in some bright spots and stuff with each team, but I think kind of there's a narrative at this point for each team. For the most part, it's kind of in the middle with some, but I think it's a good starting point to kind of get some narratives out there. There's a narrative after every game, I feel like.
Agreed. So that's what we're going to jump into. We won't make you wait any longer. Let's go ahead and dive into it. 30 minutes of football with Legit Football starts now. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up my picks from the week. All right, so we already talked about your Colts eking out, so we're not going to give that any more attention. Congrats, that's all I'll say on that. So let's go ahead and start in London. The New York Giants, 7.5-point underdogs against the Green Bay Packers, and it looked that way to start the game. But at the end of the day, the Giants roar back, take the lead. Saquon Barkley taking the game over. They stop Aaron Rodgers and the Packers both at the end zone and on a final play. Don't even let them get the Hail Mary off. They not only cover the spread, but they get the victory. I picked them to cover. I did not expect them to win. What are your thoughts on this game real quick?
I mean, last week I got some feedback from the power rankings. I kept putting the Giants low because I wasn't 100% sold on them, but I mean, this game you have to be sold on them after a game like this. They're such a well coached team from Brian Daboll, and Saquon Barkley's been running like crazy. Daniel Jones, he has his moments, but he's been standing firm. He's been putting this team on his back when he needs to be at times. And I mean, their defense shut him out in the second half. I mean, just played really well defense against him and pulled away with a win. So that's a really good thing to see from the Giants.
Yeah, the narrative here, quickly, because I do have a narrative for both these teams. The Giants, we can't just say, oh, they're one of the most talent-poor rosters in the NFL. They can only go so far. They've proven already after 5 games that that's not the case. They're going to be at least competitive in every game. The one game they lost to Dallas, they were at least in that to a degree. And we now know, and that's a narrative we'll get to later, that this Dallas team is actually quite good, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So you're talking about a Giants team that really – their only loss coming to another 4-1 team in their division. That narrative has to change. Like, this Giants team is kind of here to stay. On the other side of it, the Green Bay Packers, their defense is not as good as we would have thought going into the season. They do have some stars. They still got Jair Alexander, Rashawn Gary up front, but it has had trouble stopping teams in key moments that Bailey Zappi was able to move the ball on them with the Patriots last weekend. So that's the narrative I'm kind of changing. the Devontae Adams thing is not new, so that's not a new narrative. Do you have any quick narratives on these games, these teams, before we move on to the next one?
Yeah, the Packers. I mean, it's the narrative is kind of like which team's going to show up because they're 2-2, and then the first half they looked really good, second half they just didn't look good at all. So, just kind of waiting to see what the Packers can bring throughout the rest of the season. But I like those narratives.
Los Angeles Chargers eke out the victory, 30-28 over the Cleveland Browns. They did not cover. The point spread was 2.5. I was very confident that the Chargers would cover, and they fell a half a point short. So I don't get that there, but I did pick the Chargers to win, which they did. Cleveland Brown rookie kicker Cade York misses a potential game-winning field goal at the end. And Jacoby Brissett, as efficient as he's been, only 3 interceptions all year, but they seem to come in really bad situations through a crucial pick here. On the Chargers side, Austin Eckler absolutely coming out. I mean, not a coming out party because we knew who Eckler was, but the Chargers rushed for about as many yards today as they had all season combined. My narrative, the biggest takeaway here is this Cleveland defense is bad. And we had kind of gone into the season thinking, oh, they've got Jadeveon Clowney, Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, Jeremiah J.O.K., all these kind of playmakers on defense. No, this is a bad Browns defense.
Right. And on the other side of the football, Nick Chubb is a great running back, and that's kind of what's been shown so far. Before the week, I had my kind of narrative for these two teams, and after the week, I was still thinking the same thing. The Chargers have Austin Eckler, Mike Williams, Justin Herbert playing on the offensive side, and the Browns have Nick Chubb and Jacoby Brissett. He has his moments, but I mean, he kind of reached his peak, and you can kind of tell, especially with that last throw, with that interception, was tough to watch. But their defense has not been good for the Browns.
Yeah, and the Chargers, it's almost hard to really get a new narrative on them because they're so beat up and they've have so many crucial injuries. But they're a team that they're not going to be a dominant defense, at least with their current roster, until they get some healthy pieces back. So they're going to let up some points, but they're going to be able to score some points as well. And it's just a matter of some of these late game decisions. In this case, Staley went for it on 4th down when maybe some people thought he should have just punted the ball away. Didn't end up coming back to bite them because they got the victory. Minnesota Vikings, NFC North matchup with the Chicago Bears, 7.5 points. They win by 7, just missed. That was another miss on the spread. But I did pick them to win. And Chicago made it interesting. Minnesota came out absolutely looking. Kirk Cousins actually set a franchise record, completed his first 17 passes, which seems like something Cousins has done before. So I was a little surprised by that. Justin Jefferson had a field day, against the Chicago secondary, which we predicted. But the Bears actually showed a little resolve, a little fight. Justin Fields had his best game as a passer, only 208 yards passing, but that's still his best as a passer. Darnell Mooney had a nice play down the field. Ultimately, turnover at the end of the game. Great play by Cameron Dantzler of the Vikings gets them the victory.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it really any better. The Bears, I was surprised to see them put up the fight in the second half. Justin Fields, he looked pretty good. He had some decent plays in the second half. And David Montgomery, he showed some promise as well, kind of coming back from injury and seeing what he can do. But the Vikings pulled away with the win close. And, yeah, Justin Jefferson had like 91 yards in the first quarter. Obviously, you can't keep that up. And then Kirk Cousins, 17 for 17. I mean, they almost lost it, but they had a good offensive performance and held away. And, I mean, the win's the most important part. So
let's go on to Tennessee Titans at Washington Commanders. One of my most confident games. Got this one right across the board. They beat Washington and they covered the spread. They won 21-17. Carson Wentz actually was pretty good for most of the day, but at the end of the day, threw that game-sealing interception in the end zone to give Tennessee the victory. My thoughts, the one narrative change that I've taken out of this is that Derrick Henry's not washed up. I kind of thought he might finally reach that limit, and we saw it at the beginning of the season, kind of maybe. No, he accounted for over half of Tennessee's offensive yards. He accounted for 2 of their 3 touchdowns. This team revolves around Derrick Henry, and Henry's still capable of doing it.
Yeah, it's a similar Titans team to what we've seen in the past. Obviously, minus A.J. Brown. I think I kind of go back and forth. I mean, but they're on top of the AFC South, and that's always good to see them. They always pull out wins. They always find a way to win, and that's the most important part. And the Commanders, Carson Wentz, Diami Brown, they had 2 long touchdowns, which is cool to see. But it came down to the last drive, and Carson Wentz threw a pick, or he threw like multiple potential interceptions. Then finally threw the interception when he had a chance to win the game. But yeah, the
Commanders just waiting to do Wentz, waiting to be do that Wentz moment. It was like it's inevitable. Right. He's going to do it. Oh, there it is in the last play of the game.
Yeah.
Let's go to Houston. We'll stay in the AFC South. Houston Texans actually beating the Jacksonville Jaguars 13-6. I did pick them to cover. I didn't think that they would win. I wasn't that confident that they would cover, but Houston had actually won, I think, 8 straight games against the Jaguars. I just felt that the way Jacksonville was playing last week, coming off that loss to Philadelphia, that they would not produce enough to beat the Texans team by 7 or more. And Houston has actually been competitive. They're not really getting blown out in their losses. And hey, they get their first victory. Not a lot of new narratives to come out. Houston kind of played the same game. Jacksonville outgained them. But Houston playing mistake-free football, essentially, not turning over the ball, where Jacksonville had multiple turnovers on downs and multiple turnovers, including a key interception. Derek Stingley getting his first NFL interception in the end zone against Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, shout out Derek Stingley. But Damian Pierce ran the ball well. I saw a PFF stat. I think he forced 14 missed tackles, which is probably the highest they've ever graded, which is insane. So that's good to see from him. But we also said that last week, so a narrative similar there. The Jaguars, I'm kind of disappointed in how they played. I thought they would play pretty well. I thought last week it was just like the Eagles, but now it's like, can they put up numbers, or they can lose or win to any team? But Trevor Lawrence had another disappointing game as a whole, making more turnovers. Turnovers happen during the game, and you can't really always win that way.
Yeah, this was the problem. This is a team that they had over 400 yards of offense. They actually moved the ball pretty well and consistently. They just couldn't capitalize. 6 points on the day, unable to get in the end zone, crucial mistakes, multiple fourth downs where they didn't get it. That's going to be a problem if you're going to have these mistakes plague you. You're going to end up losing games like this. And so we're all high on Jacksonville 2 weeks ago. Maybe this is a narrative that's going to keep shifting. Like, you talk about who are the Packers, who are the Jaguars? This team that absolutely destroyed the Chargers and your Colts, and then couldn't hold a lead and got beat down by the Eagles, and then lose to the division rival Texans.
Yeah, it's one of those games where the narrative is TBD still.
Yeah. I think we're going to need to see what. Travis Etienne actually showed some promise, but I think they could have given him more touches. He was showing some of that hype that we saw in the preseason, and I just don't think he got the ball enough. So let's go to New Orleans, where the Seattle Seahawks, I have a very clear narrative to talk about here with Seattle. Seattle didn't quite pull it off. I predicted that they would lose, but cover the 5.5. They came just short of that, losing by 7. Taysom Hill show in New Orleans. New Orleans pulls off the victory. Back and forth, very little defense from either team, which is kind of what we've seen in these Seattle games. Yeah. Any takeaways here?
Yeah, Taysom Hill. I mean, he always seems to have a couple games each season like this, and new position as a tight end, but it doesn't really change how he's perceived, except he's just positioned as a tight end now. But 4 touchdowns, 113 rushing yards, some passing yards too. I mean, just
one pass, and it was a 22-yard touchdown. 22 yards.
But on the other side of the ball, I mean, their defense is just atrocious. And Geno Smith, I mean, he's just looking so good. He had some dimes to Tyler Lockett today. Yeah. He had a nice touchdown to DK Metcalf. I mean, that pass that he dropped in the bucket to Tyler Lockett, I could watch that like 20 times in a row. That was beautiful.
So this is what inspired this whole narrative theme for this show, was Geno Smith. Yeah. Because I have been saying, and maybe I'm going to end up being proven wrong because I'm flip-flopping now, but I've been saying, hey, we know who Geno Smith is. He's not new to the league. He's going to come down to earth. And I thought this was the game where he would do that, and he didn't. He has played better than I've ever seen him play, and he's now done it 5 straight weeks. So that's what I mean. We've now seen him in over 25% of the games that the Seahawks will play this year. Now, part is, their defense was one of the worst defenses in the NFL, and he's having to do this, but he's stepping up. He's making the plays. He's making great throws. He's being smart with the ball. You don't really see a lot of bad decisions from him. My narrative has changed on Geno. I could end up eating my words next week, but I'm going to go ahead and say, you know what? I was wrong, at least for the first 5 games of the season. Geno Smith's for real.
Yeah, we'll see if he keeps it up. If he keeps it up for the rest of the season, the Seahawks are going to have some things to figure out, but they'll probably still look to get a young QB, but how long Geno Smith is going to be there, it could be extended for sure.
They're going to be fun to watch, at least. That's what some of these bad teams, just make them fun to watch. The Lions, sorry, Anthony, we'll get to them in a little bit, until this week were fun to watch. So give me more Geno Smith. I never thought I would say that in my life, but give me more Geno Smith. Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf are coming. This offense is just fun to watch. Have to mention Rashad Penny did break his fibula. So he is going to be out for an extended period of time, although Kenneth Walker came in, had a 67-yard touchdown. So they may not have as much of a drop as one of these teams that didn't have a stud rookie running back waiting in the wings. All right, let's go to the Atlanta Falcons. A little bit of a controversial ending against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay wins 21-15. I correctly predicted that Atlanta would cover this. I was one of my more confident picks. I didn't know that Atlanta would have a chance to win at the end of the game. I want to address this roughing the passer thing. Did you see the game, or did you see the highlight with Grady Jarrett sacking Brady at the end of the game?
Yes, I did. Yeah, and looking at it, I mean, I can see it from both sides.
Can you? No, I can't see it from the other side. I've been trying. This was a normal range of motion where he has to finish the sack to pull him down. This was not excessive. This was not a situation where the play's dead and then he slings him. This was part of his normal range of motion that happened to bring Tom Brady to the ground. It wasn't even that hard of a turn, and it's such a crucial moment to throw the roughing the passer flag. Atlanta had all the momentum. They get the ball back there with the way they had finally started to move the ball on offense. We could be talking about Atlanta Falcons first in the NFC South. Instead, we get another Tom Brady victory with the Bucs.
Right. Yeah. No, I don't think plays like that should be roughing the passer. I kind of see why, based off the rule. I think it could go both ways, just specifically looking at the rule and kind of what's been happening in the past or previously with some players like Tua getting injured, similar to that faction. I don't know if they're just playing safe, but it looks like it's kind of up for grabs in terms of the rule specifically. But obviously, I don't think, especially in that moment, that something like that should be called. I don't even think Tom Brady agreed it should have been called.
Well, I will say this. We have said how competitive Atlanta has been week in and week out. Yeah. They had won 2 games in a row. This is now their biggest defeat. It's only 6 points, but all their 2 previous defeats were less than 6 points. So this is a team that's going to be in every single game. Atlanta's here to stay. I like it. They're one of the teams I'm really excited to watch week to week. And they didn't have Cordero Patterson or Kyle Pitts for this, so they were missing some of their weapons, and they still kept it close with the GOAT and his Bucs.
Yeah, and Drake London didn't even really contribute too much to where.
Especially, they did a little at the end of the game, but most of the game, he was silent. It was just, ground and pound. You saw multiple running backs get involved. Good for Atlanta. I'm looking forward to watching them going forward. That chime means it is halftime. We will keep this quick. This is my plug, legitfootball.com. Sign up to get your NFL news in 5 minutes or less. We pick the top stories. We curate it. We summarize it. We tell you what you need to know. We give you injury updates. We give you all of the tidbits in your email every single morning. It's 100% free, and you can always unsubscribe. Legitfootball.com and enter your email address. Jimmy, let everybody know where they can find you.
At NFL_stats. If you're scrolling through Twitter all the time, just scrolling on through, you're bound to see my tweets eventually, and you might as well hit that follow button because I post stats, news, information, sometimes
birthdays.
Birthdays, yeah. Happy birthday, Geno Smith.
Happy birthday, Geno.
Possible MVP candidate. No, I posted that just to get a rile out of people, but obviously he probably won't win MVP on the Seahawks. But yeah, come fight with me, talk trash with me if you don't like one of the stats I post. It's fun.
Anybody that cares about the NFL and likes statistics needs to follow at NFL_stats. It's as simple as that. Like he said, you've probably seen him in your feed anyway. Just go ahead and hit that follow button. All right, let's go ahead and get the second half started. No need to beat around the bush. Let's jump into these games, and we still want to give... I'm a little excited to preview tonight's Monday Night Football, unlike some of the past matchups, so I do want to give that a decent amount of time. All right, so let's go ahead and... talk about Miami Dolphins, absolutely pasted. Rich, if you're listening, kudos to the Pro Football Demons Jets. 40-17, great overall performance by New York. Breece Hall is the real deal. 100 yards receiving, first Jets running back with 100 yards receiving since 2011. Jimmy, who was the running back in 2011 who had 100 yards receiving for the Jets?
LaDainian Tomlinson, Jets running back, LaDainian Tomlinson. How we all remember him, right? Yeah.
Jets running back, LaDainian Tomlinson, LT. So I definitely giving credit. Dolphins after the very first drive, we're down to their third string running back. Tua didn't even travel with the team to New York for this. Obviously, he was ruled out right away with the ongoing concussion issue that he had. So Teddy Bridgewater gets to start. He gets sacked in the end zone, or knocked down in the end zone. It was called a safety. He gets taken out for another injury. They give him a concussion. He passes all the tests, but apparently somebody saw him stumble. So then, boom, with the new protocol, he is out. Enter preseason standout, 7th-round rookie quarterback Skylar Thompson, which, yes, there's excitement, but that's the preseason. He came in, he looked indecisive. He was holding the ball for a long time. I think he got hit. There were 15 QB hits from the Jets, which part of that certainly goes to the credit for the Jets pass rush, but Thompson just kept holding the ball. He wasn't really taking chances. The few he did, maybe not as smart of chances as a veteran quarterback would take. So it was a very condensed offense. I think his average yards per target was like 5. It was just the whole exciting element of this Dolphins offense, that deep ball to Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle was just completely missing. And the Jets took advantage. Zach Wilson played efficient. As I mentioned, Breece Hall looked good. Sauce Gardner looked fantastic. So he also got his first interception. So let's give credit to the Jets. I don't want to talk about my Dolphins anymore. Your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, we don't have to talk about the Dolphins anymore. Obviously, you have a lot of injuries. It's hard to really decipher them or create some sort of narrative, and the narrative got halted with that Tua injury and Teron Armstead getting injured, and all sorts of things happening right now. But on the Jets side, I looked it up during the intro. The last time they scored 40 points was October of 2018, 4 years since they scored 40 points. So the Jets have something to be excited about, because there's a lot of games where they possibly could have scored 40 points, but here they did that. Breece Hall looked good. Michael Carter vultured a couple touchdowns, which is always, fun to see when you have them on your fantasy team. Me, but yeah, and the defense held up against the seventh round rookie. But it's exciting to see an offensive like that put up 40 points, especially with a lot of young stars playing well.
Silver lining for the Dolphins, Raheem Mostert with his first 100-yard game and his first touchdown as a Dolphin. So if the Dolphins can get that running game going, they will need it. No matter if Teddy's back or if Skylar Thompson is in, they're going to need to rely heavily on that run game until Tua returns. So there you go. That's the one good thing I'll take out of this 23-point drubbing by the New York Jets. Congratulations to Rich, the Pro Football Demon, on that victory there. Jets have a winning record. So do the Giants. When's the last time that happened, Jimmy?
2015. Is that right?
7 years ago, 2015. Jeez. The last time the two New York teams, or Jersey teams, if you will, had winning records at the same time. Crazy stat there. All right, let's go on to an absolute destroying of a rookie debut. Yeah. Kenny Pickett didn't look horrible, so I just feel bad for him. 38-3. The first drive of the game for the Bills, Josh Allen connects on a 98-yard touchdown to Gabe Davis. That set the tone. They never looked back. Josh Allen had finished the game with over 400 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. Gabe Davis had 2. Stephon Diggs and Khalil Shakir had his first NFL touchdown. Just the Steelers, I think, had 3 QB pressures on the entire day. Man, do they miss TJ Watt. I think they're now 0-8 in games where Watt doesn't play.
0-8 since 2017, since he got drafted. So that's very unfortunate. And then when you have a rookie QB, not a lot's going to happen, especially when you're playing your first game against Sean McDermott and Josh Allen and Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs, and then that defense going crazy too. When we saw the spread last week, we saw -14. We were like, dang, that's a big spread.
Yeah.
And then
it's Mike Tomlin. It's the Steelers. Never had losing record. How can they? I picked Pittsburgh to lose, but not to lose by 14 or more. Yeah. Man, was I wrong here.
14 is a lot of points, and I don't blame you for doing that. But I also, looking back, hindsight's 2020. Obviously, looking back at it, I was like, rookie QB, not possibly the number 1 team in the AFC, but we were hoping they put up a fight. But it was just not much to say at this point. But I think the narratives for both teams were pretty much confirmed with this game.
Yes.
We'll see if they can change that. There's still 12 more games to play, so we'll see. But Mike Tomlin's losing season's coming close. That's probably going to be a big narrative throughout the season. So
1-4 at this point, and they had to squeak out an overtime victory against the Bengals. To not be 0-5. I think it's going to happen. Silver lining, though, like I said, to start, Kenny Pickett actually didn't look that bad. No. He certainly looked more exciting than Mitch Trubisky. So there's your silver lining, Steelers fans. Let's go ahead to the earlier mentioned Detroit Lions. This is another game that I figured, okay, The Patriots will win this game. Do I have enough confidence in their offense to win by 4 points or more? No, I'm going to pick Detroit to cover, but the Patriots to win. Because you know what? Detroit's going to score some points. They scored 0 points. Jared Goff looked absolutely flabbergasted. You think about a past appearance of Goff going up against Bill Belichick, and maybe we should have seen this coming, was in the Super Bowl when the Rams played the Patriots, and the Rams, this high-powered Rams offense managed a whole 3 points. This looked like that Jared Goff. He looked lost. They went for it on 4th down 6 times, and they missed 6 times. It was nothing went right for this team. They had injuries on the defensive side of the ball, on a defense that's already not been very good. Bailey Zappi winning his first ever start. I'm going to go ahead and throw out a narrative. Detroit is not as good as I thought they were coming into the season. The Hard Knocks bump is gone.
Yeah, it's fair. I mean, especially with a defense like that. I mean, everything went wrong this past week, but I don't think it's necessarily completely changed in my eyes. I think their offense still has a lot of weapons, and I'm looking forward to seeing them bounce back eventually. I think nothing was clicking on any cylinder, but I don't disagree completely with you. I think it could be possible that the narrative's changing and the Lions aren't as good as we thought they were. I always thought they were meh, especially with the defense just letting up a lot of open touchdowns, like that one open touchdown to Jacoby Myers. And when a third string quarterback puts up 29 on you and then you get shut out to 0 points, I mean, it's just not your day. But it's just crazy to think they scored 0 points when they're averaging 35.
Luckily for the Lions and for us, because I continue to pick them incorrectly in the spread, they are on bye next week, so they have a chance to get healthy. Amon-Ra St. Brown played in this game, but he was on a pitch count. DeAndre Swift did not play. So 2 more weeks, you should have both of those guys much more healthy and ready to play. Hopefully for you, Anthony, our producer, things get a little better. They can't get much worse. Let's go to there is one situation that's worse right now, and that is the Carolina Panthers. This was one of I think the 4th most confident game was that San Francisco would cover that 6.5 points on the road, and they did in spades, 37-15. And one of those touchdowns was because there was a turnover in a short field for Carolina. And now they have a new coach because Matt Rule is gone, fired defensive coordinator as well. And Steve Wilkes giving his second chance in the interim role here. They also are going to have a new quarterback. Baker Mayfield has a high ankle sprain. He's going to be out a few weeks. Sam Darnold not ready to return again, so we see P.J. Walker next week. Not a lot to say on this game. Niners offense was efficient as they needed to be. Defense looked fantastic. They got a pick 6. They had more injuries. That's something to be concerned about. Your thoughts?
Yeah, shout out DeMeco Ryans, the defense coordinator for the 49ers. I mean, he's just putting them in a position to do well against every team. Nick Bosa is playing well as always. Jimmy G was playing well. Jeff Wilson made some points. Deebo Samuel did all right. I mean, nothing really to say that we haven't said in the past. But then the Panthers, man. I mean, I think before even week 1, people were saying, "Hey, when is Matt Rule going to get fired?" And I was like, "Hey, maybe he lasts a little while." But after week 5 was his time, so this will be the game that got Matt Rule fired. But it was a culmination of a lot of things. So we'll see how Steve Wilkes does as the interim head coach throughout the rest of the season. He could earn a head coaching job. Who knows? Could see a spark from the Panthers throughout the season. Sometimes that happens.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that doesn't happen with this team. They're now down to their third string quarterback. They've been dreadful and one of the worst offenses in the NFL. They do have some talent on the defensive side, but even they're a little beat up there with Jeremy Chin, who's on injured reserve. So there's just not a lot of bright spots. To the point where we're now seeing teams are calling for DJ Moore. Oh, what if they trade Christian McCaffrey? This could be a fire sale situation. So I think it gets worse before it gets better for Carolina. The best is unfortunately down the road. So let's talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. Going in as the only undefeated team and staying as the only undefeated team. They got out to a 14-0 lead, but then let Arizona come back to tie it up. Philadelphia grinded out a very long, I think, 15-play, almost entirely run-based drive. They did not get in the end zone, but they kicked the game-winning field goal because Arizona went down. Kyler Murray had a few, mental snafus and set up their practice squad kicker, Matt Amendola, for a badly missed field goal to try to tie that. Philadelphia escapes with the win. They do not cover the 5.5. I have thoughts on this game, but I want to hear yours first.
Yeah, I mean, for Kyler Murray, I feel like the highs are high and the lows are low. He has some great plays that are fun to watch, and then he has some miscues, like you said. I was really hoping to see overtime in this game because I thought it'd be really interesting. But the Eagles pulled out the win when they weren't playing their best football. Jalen Hurts was their leading rusher. He didn't do very well in the terms of the passing game, but he got a couple rushing touchdowns when they needed it. So I mean, the play in the red zone is just put Jalen Hurts in the end zone, just give him the ball. You'll find a way to get the ball in the end zone somehow, and they did that, and they won the game. So,
well, here's the thing: this is one of the games I was watching the most closely.
Yeah,
and here's a fun stat for you: Jalen Hurts threw more screen passes than any quarterback since they started tracking routes in 2018. He threw 13. So we can say that he didn't have the same stats, but that's play calling. This is and they didn't start off that way. They scored 14-0 because they were able to move the ball down the field. AJ Brown heavily involved early in the game, and then they just stopped trying to throw the ball down the field. They were just going heavy with this kind of short screen pass. Devontae Smith was the beneficiary of that, but it was just very baffling. And so my narrative, which has gone up and down, preseason was like Nick Sirianni's not a great coach. I have questions with how they've run that offense, certainly last year. Oh, but look at that. They've played great. Look how they played against the Vikings. This offense is real. And then they have a game like this where they get a lead and then they just have questionable play calling on the offensive side of the ball. And so they stop moving the ball. To be determined. Huge game against Dallas next week. I guess we'll get more answers then. That'll be a real test for both of these teams. Speaking of Dallas, let's go ahead and talk. We got two more games and I want to give some time to Monday Night Football. The Dallas Cowboys. Cooper Rush moves to 4-0 this season, 5-0 as a starter. Although this game was not due to him, it was entirely due to this defense. They started the game with a strip sack, scoop and score fumble, followed that up with a blocked punt that set them up for a field goal. This defense absolutely won the game, 22-10 over the Rams. The only touchdown for the Rams was a long 75-yard Cooper Kupp touchdown where he made an amazing catch and then just outran everybody. Your thoughts on the narratives with these two teams?
I mean, Cowboys, it's the narrative is the defense. I know people talking about Cooper Rush being 5-0 or something, but their defense is winning games with DeMarcus Lawrence getting that fumble return for a touchdown. Trayvon Diggs, he let up some big plays, but at some point he does that, but he does make big plays. Micah Parsons is good. They haven't allowed 20 points in a game yet. They haven't allowed more than one touchdown in a game yet. That's the biggest narrative for them. In terms of the Rams, I mean, they're just not – their offense is just not looking good as what we thought it could be.
How about this? Yeah. They're not a very good football team.
Yeah.
The Super Bowl champions are not a very good football team. They almost blew a lead against the Falcons. Their other victory was against an Arizona team that, they're a mess in themselves. And they're 2-3. This, the losing record. McVay never had a losing record. Well, he's had it twice now. This is the worst record they've ever had at this point in the season. That's my narrative. This Rams team is not very good. They've got just one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL at this point. Their defense has been pretty good, but not game-changing. They have no offense outside of Cooper Kupp. They can't rush the ball. Allen Robinson has not been as advertised. There's real problems in LA right now. And on the other side of the ball, this Dallas defense is so good, they are contenders in the NFC. That was my narrative change there.
Yep, I agree with that. Until the Rams show us something, I think you can't put them up in the powerhouses right now until they figure out their offense and figure out their defense as well, and maybe the playmakers can start making more plays.
My personal rankings, obviously, we'll do the Power Rankings show. If you guys want to catch that out live, quick plug, 6 Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Jimmy and I do a Power Rankings draft where we alternate picking our teams for our collective Power Rankings. For my personal rankings, I think the Rams are going to fall quite a bit. One more game to preview from Sunday. The Cincinnati Bengals cover the 2.5-point spread, but Baltimore, Justin Tucker kicking a last-second field goal to get the victory, moving the Ravens into first place in the North. Quick thoughts on this one.
Yeah, it was good to see the Ravens get a close win. They've had a couple disappointing losses throughout. They only trailing by 14 seconds in their 2 losses. It was tough to see, and I know Ravens fans were like, "When's that going to happen today?" But Justin Tucker is just, you can always count on him. Whenever he comes out there, you can just turn off the TV because you know he's going to score points in the fourth quarter or overtime. Lamar Jackson, he always makes plays when he needs to. Mark Andrews is always it seems like possibly his only reliable kind of pass catcher at this point. Maybe they make a trade with the Panthers at some point, but as a whole, I think the Ravens were thankful to get a win today, even though it was close. And then the Bengals as a whole, Joe Burrow was not throwing the ball down the field. 4.0 yards, air yards per attempt was probably the lowest of his career. So that was something to behold. Their offense didn't look too great. They did keep it close though against the Ravens.
Yeah, my quick narrative on the Bengals is that this offense has real problems, and they are not near as good as they have been in the past. Takaido Luna, nice to see you in the chat. Going back to the Rams are as good as a plastic fork in an oven. I cannot disagree with you right now. Anthony, go ahead and put 1 minute. We're going to do overtime. We're going to preview Chiefs Raiders. As soon as I see that timer go up, I will give it a start, or we can just start now. So Kansas City Chiefs favored by 6.5 or 7 points, depending on what sports book you're using, at home at Arrowhead against the Raiders, who got their first victory last week over the Broncos. I have the Chiefs both winning and covering this game. I think at home, this offense has looked great. They just were able to go up and down the field last week against a good Bucs defense. I don't see the Raiders being able to keep up with them. They've got problems in the secondary. I do think they'll be able to score some points. So, fantasy, DFS, I like Devontae Adams in this game because they'll need to. Game script, I don't see as good of an output from Josh Jacobs this week. Your thoughts, Jimmy?
Yeah, I agree with you. I have some money on the minus the point spread for the Chiefs. I think they're going to score a lot of points. I think it'll be in the 30s. I don't think the Ravens or the Raiders can get that close. It could be a double-digit win, could be a 2-touchdown win. We'll just have to wait and see if Max Crosby will play well, but see if somebody else can complement him on the defensive line and see if their defense can step up and make some stops against Mahomes. But that's a tough task on Monday Night Football.
Monday Night Football at home, and this Chiefs offense is just looking as dominant as any offense in the NFL. I'm going to go like a 31-21, like a 10-point victory here. Yeah, there we go. We're in sync as always.
I'd be like 38 or something, but I won't predict that. It'll be like 31-17.
We'll go ahead and call it here. The game starts in about 10 minutes. Thank you for listening and watching. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe either here on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific for our fantasy preview, looking ahead to Week 6, waiver wires, buy, sell, start, sit questions from viewers, all of that. And then, of course, on Wednesday, I will have Jimmy back. We will do our Power Rankings draft, where we'll take turns picking from 32 all the way to 1, and then we'll reveal on Twitter. Make sure to check out at NFL_stats. Check out Legit Football as always. Thank you for listening and watching, guys. This has been Legit Football's 30 minutes of football. Enjoy Monday Night Football. That's spicy. Jimmy Garoppolo on there could be a benefit, but have they kind of burned that bridge?
We'll say this. Gardner Minshew is the best backup in the NFL.
I love Gardner.